Got it. Okay, so want to get an approval of our agenda for today. We'll make a motion to
And
move
we'll
it. Second.
A second.
Okay, thank you. The minutes which were sent out, I'll move it that they be accepted. Get a second.
Second.
All right, any all in favor? Any opposed?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. So the first thing I want to do is not on the agenda, but I want to welcome our two newest members, Rosalind and Michael. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, so glad to have you on board. And I've been on this since 2009, and this is the largest number of people we've ever had on the council. So we still have 3 vacancies to go, and hopefully we can fill those vacancies as well. So my chair's report was sent out. I wrote it over a week ago, so I remember what I put on it, so I'm going to take a look. Thankfully, there wasn't anything earth-shattering happening in the time since we last met. And the ridership, I checked it the other day. I'm going to check it right now. This is on the MTA public website. Who do we have now? Who has joined us? All right, so you're all interested in Metro North. Metro North's ridership for Monday, which is the last date they reported, is 49% of 2019. So we're working our way back up. The weekend was a little bit better at 54 on Sunday rather than 64 on Sunday. So the weekends have been higher, and hopefully it will continue to climb. The long array of courses, well, actually, yeah, they're a little bit higher than we are, but they typically are.
Andy, is there a breakdown between the lines, Harlem, Hudson, and New Haven?
No, it's just given as one number. I deferred to the staff to see if they have that information.
Thank you.
Bradley, Kara?
They're in the board books. There should be, and that'll come out. There'll be a new. The board books will be released again, hopefully by Friday for next week. That's when the monthly amounts come out. I think that there was probably a depression for all of us during Omicron, but particularly in the ridership numbers that we would have seen. So as those numbers come back up, I think that it will probably be more reflective of both return to work and return to ride. So we can get those out to you. Kara, maybe while we're doing this, you can just take a look to see what it was in January's book. Thank you.
Will do.
Do we know, I've noticed in Grand Central the last couple of weeks, they've been increasingly having counters on the platforms checking, tallying riders getting off arriving trains. Is that cross-checking? The footnote on the online form says they've been using a model based on ticket sales. So do we know, is they just cross-checking that, or are they trying to update what they're doing?
You mean in terms of the passenger counts?
Right.
I'm not sure how scientific it is.
Right.
I know Bradley's done a lot more deep dive into passenger counts.
I feel mostly they do a lot of different ridership counts. A lot of what we use are the GCT counts, where they're actually averaging how many people are coming in and out of Grand Central. They also look at ticket sales, and what I believe is they put all these inputs together to get a more accurate assessment what the ridership is. So they do it from all different angles.
Actually, maybe Peter, are you able to weigh in on that at all?
Yeah, I mean, that's to what Bradley just said. That's pretty accurate. I mean, we don't use the specific data to what is published on the performance dashboards. We use it to inform, basically, hey, particular train line, say it's the 708 that arrived at GCT. It had a count of say 600. We're able to kind of look at that history and see, how it's performing. If that's accurate, whether today it's Wednesday the 16th, or and we see if we see a difference on say a Monday. which, prior to the pandemic, you would see Wednesday as more of a higher ridership count, partly because you may see people coming in for Broadway shows. So they do a balancing of the data.
I think that with the implementation of the apps that are pretty reflective of actual ridership too, right? They do the passenger counts and look at the weight of the cars too, that show what the actual ridership by train car is, more or less accurately. It's probably getting more and more accurate. I don't know if that's changing the way that the numbers are being looked at, but it changes the way I ride, certainly, in terms of, oh, this train's more crowded, this car's more crowded, things like that. So I think
I just checked the director's desk and the workbooks are not up yet. So it is kind of early. So I thought maybe we would have something. All right, so otherwise, I did not get information about the board briefing, which is tomorrow afternoon. So I have no idea what they're going to be talking about. There might be a schedule change for Metro North coming soon with increased service, but I have to wait until we see that officially. And there really isn't much else I have to add there, but we'll introduce it to two new members. So ladies first, Rosalind, if you like to be called Rosalind or Roz, tell us how you like to, and just tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, either way is fine. Some people call me Rosalind, others call me Roz. And I live in Larchmont. I spend a lot of time in Bethesda because I have one child and she now works in Bethesda. So that's my reason for being there. I worked corporately with A&E Television Networks. And just as an FYI, I've worked with Rich Cottagio. I found it interesting that we're on this call together.
Wow.
Walter and I were at the same church until I moved to a church in a different area. I think and David Buckwall, who is a prior chair of this group, I think, is a family friend. So my, I guess, corporate experience is in human resources, and currently I'm retired from corporate, and I'm trying to start a career of leisure.
Okay, that sounds, and have all these connections here. Wow, that's pretty amazing. It surely is. All right, thank you. Mike? You're up.
Yes, and as soon as I find the cursor, I'll do that. I'm Mike Stanton from White Plains. I am currently manager of marketing communications for a company called Build America Mutual. We're a municipal bond insurance company. I've been in the municipal finance industry my whole career. Prior to being here, I ran a thing called The Bond Buyer, which is a daily newspaper that covers muni bonds. And a whole life in and around New York and Westchester, and I live in White Plains. 2 kids, 1 still at home.
Okay, very nice. Without giving any specifics here, you want to use the email that I discussed when you were when I first called you, or you want to use this other one that they are sending the emails to?
I think the Verizon one is fine.
Okay, all right, so I'll make sure that I only use that one. All right, so that's really good news there. Okay, and everybody is know each other. I'm looking forward to having us have a impeachment. As you all know, I'm in Florida now, and you were complaining. It was windy here this morning also. I'm not.
Probably not 14 degrees. I'll just put that out there.
It's at least 4 times that much, more than that. 76 it actually is. So we have the next time that we would be together would be in March for the PCAC meeting, which I think is March the 5th.
March 3rd.
March 3rd. Okay, so it's March the 3rd, and then I'm going to still be here. But then
we'll hold that as a hybrid meeting. The physical location will be in 2 Broadway. Hopefully you can join us here. Otherwise, you'll be able to join it by Zoom as well.
Okay.
And we believe I think we haven't gotten final confirmation, but it looks like Jamie Torres Springer, who is the president of the MTA Design and Construction Department, will be our guest for that.
Okay, that's great. All right, so then April, we'll see what happens. I'm looking to have an in-person meeting. So, all right, the next thing is the new fair pilot programs. So I'll let the staff give us the update on that.
Yep, I'm going to give a brief presentation that we also had from that Sarah Meyer presented that gave us just the other day, just a little run through. The new fare policies go into effect with the completion of the all off peak all the time. Some of them go into effect on Friday, the 25th, are effective as of then, and some on the 28th, March 1st. So that's really just coming up soon. So now we had a conversation, Bradley and I had a conversation with Sarah Meyer, who is the MTA's chief customer officer, about outreach and communication. And they're really going to do a lot more outreach in the city on some of the new offerings here, because I think the market is particularly big in that they're doing outreach on the commuter lines as well. And hopefully it's more targeted to people who are already riding because of the ticket types they're doing. I wanted to throw in one thing before we get to the presentation, which is some of the big news that also happened was that Phil Eng, who is the president of Long Island Railroad, announced his retirement after 40 years. And Kathy Rinaldi will be doing double duty as the president of both Metro North Railroad and Long Island Railroad. So Randy's always had a great relationship with her. We always have, and the Long Island Railroad Commuter Council has had a great relationship with Phil. So we, as your staff, will do whatever we can to make her life easier, but look forward to being able to work with her twice as hard. And do not envy her at all. So all that being said, let's see, share screen. Okay, can you see my screen where it says goals and a Venn diagram? Great. So the MTA is putting in a number of new fare pilot programs that are designed to attract more customers. They've already announced that fares will be held flat this year. The governor put additional funding in her budget, which is designed to ensure that there won't be a fare increase through 2022, but that in the hearing that we attended yesterday, it's anticipated that they'll be going back to regular fare increases every 2 years, although it will not be out of the ordinary to make up for the lack of fare increases over these last couple of years, thanks to federal funding. Thank you, Senator Schumer, and his colleagues and the others who've worked so hard to get that funding here. So one of the reasons that the MTA is doing this, not just to entice riders back with lower fares, but to be reflective of and recognizing the fact that people are traveling differently. And like, this is one of the things you said, acknowledged in your bio, is that, the MTA does have to be more nimble. It's something I think we all understand and recognize that with changing ridership patterns and the way people are commuting differently, maybe this time people will really go back to the office, but who knows? There needs to be some adaptation and flexibility of how tickets are used and how rides are taken, and how fares are structured. So on Metro North and Long Island Railroad, effective on the 25th, which is Friday, something that we as a PCAC and as the councils have been pushing for were a 20% discount on 20 trip tickets. The 20 trip tickets are in effect on New Jersey Transit currently as Flex Pass. This is actually more flexible. And so once again, we beat out NJT, but this will allow a 20% discount And it will be good for 60 days. And in addition to that, if you are a regular monthly pass user, then you get 10% off of your monthly pass. So that's a discount in recognition of the fact that people who travel the farthest and people who've been paying and will continue to pay the most for monthly need some relief as well. City Ticket, which currently is within New York City boundaries, available on weekends, is also expanding now to off-peak all the time within the city. More to say on that in a minute. And New York City Transit is implementing the fare capping using OMNY on its subways and buses. If you haven't tapped and gone yet with OMNY, it's basically the next gen of travel. New York's actually a slow adapter, but it's basically the way that everybody travels here uses the system. Travels as a visitor and comes here, and I don't have to buy a Metro card. So the 20% discount on a 20 trip ticket is to and from Zone 1. So it's specifically to the core. 60-day validity, and encourages the growth of e-tickets. That will be the only way it's available. And it's in recognition of the fact that people are traveling maybe 2 to 3 days to the office as they're still working a hybrid schedule and not necessarily coming back full time. 10% on a monthly pass, again, offers up to 71% off one-way fares, which is tremendous and something that several board members have really been talking about for a long time in recognition of the fares for those who travel the farthest. And again, to encourage people as they're coming back to work, for those primarily who are coming back 5 days a week. The thing about 20 trip tickets, a question that was asked at the board meeting and we've gotten an answer on, is whether you can use that for more than one person at a time. And the answer is yes, similar to a 10 trip. So if I'm going with my husband and my kids into, up to see my brother in White Plains, or we're meeting in White Plains, we could all use a 20 trip ticket. So we wouldn't each have to have one or buy individual tickets. So that was good news because there had been some concern expressed about whether that would be that would be permittable. It is. City ticket expansion, which is again within the city. It's a flat fare of $5 that would be off-peak at any of the city stations for the Long Island Railroad and Metro North. Now, we, PCAC, specifically Bradley, has been spearheading an effort over the last number of years to expand what we invented as Freedom Ticket, which is discount fares on commuter rail. It exists right now on the Long Island Railroad, going to Atlantic Terminal from Southeast Queens stations, including Brooklyn stations. It's available all the time for a flat fare and is at $5 and is available also as a weekly for $60, including free transfers to subways and buses. That's going to remain in effect, but only at those station pairs. We had pushed, will continue to push for that's full implementation, but the MTA has indicated that they're concerned about capacity and they want to see how this works first. If enough people use City Ticket, then they will hopefully come to the conclusion that it will all work together in that better, faster, stronger format. Bradley.
Yeah, I just wanted to add, yes, to everything that Lisa just said. We are continuing to push for our full Freedom Ticket expansion, which was first introduced as the Atlantic Ticket program in Southeast Queens and Brooklyn. The main thing, as Lisa said, that provides a weekly discounted fare with transfers to the subway and bus network. And I just wanted to interject real quick, just so that our new members know, City Ticket also came from the PCAC. It was implemented sometime in like 2004. So this is something even before my time at PCAC that PCAC has been working on for a number of years. It was supposed to be a one-year pilot program. However, it's been in the pilot phase for a number of years now, and we're glad that it's getting more attention and hopefully it'll feed into a larger, more advanced freedom ticket proposal that provides those transfers. So PCAC has been very long in this discussion.
Yes, so we're going to be as supportive as possible of all of these programs. I've changed the slide so you can see more information about Atlantic Ticket, but we are going to use the city ticket whenever we can. When we're not using it, Atlantic Ticket pair. Randy.
I just want to add that, no, we haven't been, just sitting on our hands. We actually, the staff has organized 2 press events. One was in Woodside back a few months ago. I think you'll be into not having that meal there, but not funny. And then we were in, I think it was in early December, we had one up at Fordham Road in the Bronx. So
Yes.
we had a lot, the one in the Bronx, we had a lot of representation from the Bronx. It got tremendous support from the former Bronx Borough President and the current one who was elect. And they brought out the assemblymen, assembly people, and their senators. I mean, they really, really gave 100% support to that initiative. And as Lisa said, we're going to keep pushing them on it to make it all 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Yes, thank you. And phase 2 of Freedom Ticket phase 2 is expansion onto the commuter rails outside of New York City. So it's not just a city-centric program. It's for the recommendations that we'd included in the Freedom Ticket report, which are not reflective here. This is just for your edification, or for reverse commute and for off-peak discounts at all times on the commuter rails as well. So those are things that we'll continue to push for. I'm not going to call it a listening tour because it's a speaking tour with city officials, city electeds continues, since there was such terrific and tremendous turnaround in the last election because everyone was term limited. So we're speaking with the borough presidents and city council members and letting them know what's out there, what's up, and that we are supportive of City Ticket and these discount programs, and that this is the first step to the next step. So here's more information about Atlantic Ticket, but I think we've just basically told you everything that there is, unless you have questions about that. With the Omni fare capping, they're saying 13 is your lucky number. This is I think it's a Monday to Sunday program. That's the only way they're still working on figuring all of this technology out. And in fact, tomorrow's the New York City Transit Riders Council meeting, and we're going to have a person who's heading up the Omni program as our speaker there to help us figure some of this information out. Or puzzle through it, and including when it's exactly coming onto commuter rail. Yes.
There was I watched the press event about this, and one of the reporters asked him why Monday, Sunday to Saturday, why not any day of the week? And he said, well, this was just easier for them right now to do it this way, but there's an option they could change it later on down the road. Right.
The thing with technology is you shouldn't have to think. It should just be. But understanding it's a new program and that there is still a lot of things that are a lot of moving parts. So whatever it is, we'll respect it and we'll go with it, and we'll support it as best we can. But the way it's working is that after your 12th tap with the same phone or same card, your 13th ride and on are free. It's like a weekly Metro card that you don't have to pay for in advance. So that is that's terrific news for people who can't put the money up in advance for a weekly, don't know how many times they're going to ride in advance, or just forget, or don't know when they're going to be out there. Or the example I always use is, say you're doing DoorDash and you're doing it by Subway, and then all of a sudden you do 10 rides in a day, then you basically made it up in one day. So.
Oh yeah. So Mike, have you used the Omni system yet?
I do. Yep. The only problem is the phone doesn't recognize me behind the mask anymore.
Okay, thank you.
And that's basically it. So that's just a brief overview of these different programs. If you have any questions, I'm happy to answer them as I can. This is not our presentation that we put together. This is a presentation that was presented to us.
I have a question regarding the 20-trip ticket. Is that
Yes.
a bearer ticket or is it an individual use ticket? I assume it's a bearer ticket from what I've heard, but I'd just like to make sure.
So I'm not sure what that means.
Okay, a bearer ticket is usable by the person who has it in his or her hand. And where an individual use ticket, like the monthly commutation ticket, is used only by the purchaser of that ticket. So the bearer ticket, for example, I could use it one day and give it to my wife the next day and she could use it. That's the difference, really.
Right. Okay. So it's an e-ticket. So it's so it'll be on your device. So when I get a 10-trip on my phone, I can use it for myself and my husband. I just activate 2 tickets. So it would be the same thing with a 20-trip. As opposed to a monthly, if I have that, then it's just me. And then he has to have his own ticket.
Okay, so it's only on an e-ticket rather than a paper ticket.
Right.
Okay,
Which is
thank you.
another reason why they don't have it now yet as something that you can do an add-on to a Metro card. Yeah, with the monthlies, you still can do that. With the mail-in rides, which they don't mail or you anymore, from what I understand.
Okay. I think that covers that. I got Francina emailed me that she got stuck on a project at the last minute. That's why she's unable to join us. Okay, thank you. Next item is the New York State fiscal year 2023 budget, and our expert who spent the whole day watching this whole thing, Lisa.
Yes, it was really interesting. The governor has put out her budget, her executive budget. The Senate and the Assembly are holding their joint legislative hearings before they come out with their one House bills. In her budget, which also includes a number of different legislative proposals, the governor is allocating additional operating funds for the MTA, but that will help to allow for no fare increases, and it will also continue to keep the MTA out of the red operating money wise through until 2025. But that's when the red ink starts to flow again. And so being very mindful of that, we and our spent a lot of time talking yesterday, as did our colleagues in advocacy and a number of different elected officials, talking about the need to look, not this year, but to start talking this year about dedicated operating revenue streams. And that's something that we as staff are looking at very closely, continuing, really starting now and continuing now and pushing forward into the next year. And so picking up steam. This year, we anticipate the conversation start. Next year is when they continue. And hopefully there's action next year. There are a number of different legislative pieces in the executive budget, including increasing penalties for assaults against transit workers, and that's something that we support strongly. That passed the Senate last year, it did not pass the Assembly, and that was one of the members of the Senate called out their colleagues in the Assembly on the hearing yesterday, which I thought was quite interesting. There is an aspect of the bill of the legislation that includes accessory dwelling and TOD housing requirements that near Metro North and near the Long Island Railroad. There was an article in the Journal News today that sort of spells out quite well some of the support and opposition for that legislation. I think that what will probably ultimately happen is it'll get discussed off budget. which is where those kinds of things may make more sense to have conversations. It's when Rob Astorino and George Latimer both agree on something, that's a good indication probably that there's another way to have that conversation. So, that's something that's probably very hotly just being discussed in the areas around the MTA. So, the budget will be, needs to be in place by April 1st. And the good news is that the state is pretty flush this year. So hopefully that bodes well for the city, the region, and the MTA.
Thank you. Something I should have done before, and I didn't do it, is to introduce our two new members to the staff of the PCAC. So you've been hearing a lot from Lisa. Lisa is our executive director. She's had that position since 2018, I think.
Yeah, 3.5 years.
And she is only the third person to hold that position since PCAC was created in 1982. The second, we have an open position now for associate director, and the executive committee will be conducting interviews for the candidates next week. So that's open. But we have Bradley Brashears, who's been with us since what year?
2013.
And he started off as a volunteer.
Well, kind of. Intern, research
Intern.
assistant, transportation planner, now planning manager. Yeah.
Okay, so he's one of the candidates that's vying for the position of associate director. Then we have, in order of seniority, not in order of status or whatever, Jessica joined us. Jessica Bizio, who's the administrative assistant, joined us in July. She wants to say something about herself, she can. No, yes, unmute, there we go.
Sorry, I was going to say I joined PCAC in August and I came over from RTO. I was a New York City train conductor for 2 years prior to joining PCAC.
So she had the same position that I started my transit career with as a subway conductor. And then we have Carol, who's our research and do I have the right title here? Let me see.
Research and communications.
It's not part of it, research and communications. So
Yeah.
then she was a month after. So
Yeah.
go ahead.
Hi, I'm Kara. Yeah, I'm the Research and Communications Associate, and I support the whole team with research and communications and all of our different policy initiatives. And it's great to meet both of you.
And both of them were the winning candidates from hundreds of resumes that were submitted. And so
700.
For Jessica's position, we had more
Plus.
than 700 applicants. It was amazing.
So anyway, we're glad to have them here, and we'll have, I guess, another vacancy soon, maybe. All right. Old business. Does anybody have any old business? Okay, new business.
Wait, Randy.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Walter, you go first.
The news recently has been that the governor has asked MTA to study the possibility of Metro North running Empire service between New York and Buffalo and Niagara Falls.
That's bogus. That's bogus. It's absolutely
again?
false. It's
What?
absolutely false.
I believe that the term is,
Absolutely false.
Randy did some due diligence
No,
research on that.
Somebody in that group sent out the email, and it turns out to be it's fake news.
Oh,
The-
fake
the
news. Okay, so then
Chronicle has a history of doing that kind of stuff. Forget about it. It's not going to happen.
okay, well, that's good. I was just going to point out that years ago, when Amtrak would have a crisis from time to time, the FRA down in Washington asked for such a thing if Metro North could run the Empire service, and it was studied and so on and so forth. But it's not going to happen now, so there's no need for any further discussion. Thank you.
But Walter has a lot of experience in these retired general counsel for Metro North. If you want to say a couple of words about your experience, lifelong experience working in the transit industry.
Well, actually, I started out giving out train information and making reservations on the New Haven Railroad. That goes back quite a way. Then after law school, I worked for the Public Service Commission up in Albany for 7 years, mainly doing railroad work, some work the railroads didn't like, but nevertheless, they didn't want to, so they didn't cut service and raise fares and so on and so forth. Then I came down to MTA. I was at MTA a number of years and then became general counsel at Metro North when we incorporated back in 1982 to take over the operation in 1983. Retired from there in 2002.
Okay, so we have
Lots of other things.
we have a wealth of experience here on this council, which is like unparalleled. All right, does anybody have any new business?
Yeah, Randy, I know I didn't unmute myself in time, but a little bit of old business. So Randy and I participate in the Metro North Railroad Accessibility Task Force, and we were in a meeting yesterday. And we heard of some great news, something that we've been pushing for, especially Oren Getz, who is not here today, who's really been pushing for this, is making the Suffern Station accessible. We found out that they are in the procurement process of doing so, and they're also doing that, correct me if I'm wrong, Randy, the name of the station, but Pearl River Station as well.
There are 3 stations on the Pascack Valley line: Pearl River, Nanuet, and Spring Valley. The Pearl River station is the only one that's not accessible. Nanuet was made a key station when they first started this program, and they about 2 years ago rebuilt the handicap. I know every time someone uses the word handicap at a board meeting or a committee meeting where Victor Calise, who's disabled, he frowns on it, but it is the handicap ramp, and so they do have it in Nanuet, and Spring Valley got one a few years back. So those stations are already taken care of. In fact, I got a picture today about the new shelter in Nanuet Station opened very recently. So they're going to have a ceremony for it when I get back. Metro North was kind enough to ask me when I'm returning to New York so they could schedule that. But yes, Pearl River is not accessible yet.
Bradley, do you know if they've looked at the Suffern Station? Because the westbound platform at Suffern is not accessible. It can be made accessible, but it.
Yeah, that's exactly what they were discussing yesterday. They were actually leading with the Suffern Station. They threw in information about the Pearl River Station as well. But yes, they are looking into that. Again, they're in the very early stages. They're in the procurement process. And once that gets completed, then they're going to send out RFPs. One thing that we had advocated for in the past was to have Metro North take ownership of that station, because it's in New Jersey territory at this point, or it is in New Jersey territory. But they did not really give us too much information on that yesterday, but we will inquire about that and see what it's going to look like in the future. But we were very excited to hear that news, that they are moving that forward to make both of those stations accessible.
Thank you.
Peter, do you know if there's any rumblings about Metro North taking that over from New Jersey Transit? I don't know if you are.
Not
Suffering.
There's no real discussion that I'm aware of. I'm pretty sure, as you're quite aware, Kathy has enough on her plate.
Yeah. We'll wait until after she's got some time on her hands.
Yes, I don't think Mr. Corbett's ready to, do anything different at this moment either.
Well, that would be would save them a lot of expense if they didn't have to take care of it. But I do want to say though that the fares from Suffern are more expensive than they are from the other 3 stations in Rockland. I should say Suffern and Sloatsburg, because those are 2 stations that are still in Rockland County. Okay. All right. Is there any new business?
Yeah, Randy, it's Rich. I'd like to give you an update on West of Hudson. Just
Sure.
a quick one,
Please.
because I'm driving.
Okay.
About 3 months ago, I gave everyone the package for the new transit-oriented city to be built in Woodbury or Harriman, New York. And the developer comes in every 3 months, and they just came in to meet us again, the village board. And it's going to be a 5-year project, because there's a lot involved. To have access to a state road, he has to go through the DOT for 2 access roads and traffic lights. They're proposing 115-acre, 2,500 condos, retail, 60,000 square feet, a retail store, food stores, a movie theater, and it's all next to the train station. So again, as we get the updates, I'll send you the package as I've done in the past. And then when they have public hearings, I'll certainly give everyone the Zoom meeting to chime in.
Rich, did you say
But-
2,500 units?
2,500 condo units next to the train station. Yeah, it's 115 acres.
But this isn't Woodbury
Yeah.
Commons, because that's not
No,
going
next-
anywhere.
No, this is about a mile down from Woodbury Commons Mall. This is the train station, the Woodbury train station next to it,
Right.
Woodbury Harriman.
Has there been any movement on building or a stop at Woodbury Commons? I know that that was one of the issues that was raised at one of the hearings I was at recently.
Yeah, that died because Simon Property, who owns the mall, refuses to allow transit riders park in their facility. So I don't see any movement on that for a while. And the only other thing I could say is for the new transit-oriented city, what the village board has asked them is, they built other transit-oriented cities on east of Hudson, and we've asked for a case study. What was the financial and traffic impact after they built those transit-oriented cities? So, we can get a feeling. I'm pretty sure it's going to increase police department, fire department, things like that, and traffic. So more to come as I get the new package. I'll send it in to the committee.
Rich, did you ask that of Metro of the MTA?
Well, MTA was at one of our meetings,
Oh,
and it came up discussion item, and again, they can't do anything because it's not Metro North property. There's no parking next to the Woodbury Mall Railroad, other than the parking that's currently there at the mall.
I'm sorry, I meant about any of this study information about TOD development and what any of the studies that they've done, because I know that they have a whole TOD unit here.
Yeah, they're going to provide. They have case studies, and they have agreed to let us read them or provide them to us. And again, as soon as I get them, I'll provide them to you as well.
Great. Thank you so much.
Rich, who was there from MTA? Do you recall?
No, I don't remember. I'll have to go through the minutes of my board meeting, and I'll go through it and I'll let you know.
It would be interesting if they were Metro North people or MTA people, or both.
I would imagine that it would probably be like Bob Paley and maybe David Florio, and
Okay.
those people who head up the TOD department.
Okay. All right, thanks. Thanks for the update. And I know that's something Warren has also been pushing for having, it makes sense there. I mean, if more people come up by train, you won't need quite so many parking spaces. But this is all this planning and all this discussion was pre-pandemic, so nobody really knows what's going to happen, the next couple of years. Does anybody else have any other new business? So I just want to say one thing that Mike said that about the mask and the phone. Chairman Pat Foy, who was the chairman until late last year, when the pandemic started, he was a big press release that was put out asking Apple to figure out a way that they could the phone would be able to tell who the person is when they were wearing a mask. Nothing ever came of it. So you had an idea, but it was also mentioned once before. Nothing happened. All right. So we will be together virtually and in hybrid for those who can do it on the 3rd of March, 12 noon. It'll be at 2 Broadway someplace. The staff will send out the usual notice when it is and what floor the meeting will be on. And look forward to seeing you all virtually in March. So enjoy the rest of the month. Thank you for your time, for being here. I know you're all busy, and I'll make a motion to adjourn the meeting.
I'll second it, Mr. Chairman.
Okay, thank you. Meeting all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye.
This meeting is adjourned. So
I just want to say, please
can
feel free to
chit-chat.
reach out to us with any questions, Mike, Rosalind, and of course, any of our other members and guests that you may have. We will be reaching out to you regarding building passes and access, if that's something to see what your availability is on that. And if you anticipate coming down.
Bradley, are we off the video already?
Hold on.